Hey YouTube, it's Frost. Today I want to talk about my plans now that I've reached max level in hardcore WoW. I had stated in my previous video that one of my goals, other than hitting max level, was to complete a series of dungeons, which I consider to be the end game dungeons of Classic. All while I was leveling, images of healing Stratholme danced in my head. I wondered if I'd be geared and skilled enough at 60 to successfully heal one of these runs, though before I allowed myself to contemplate that answer, I kept focusing on simply leveling to the point where that would even be an option. Now, World of Warcraft is built on what is referred to as a trinity. The tank, DPS, and heal roles all rely on each other for difficult content. Like the three legs of a tripod, when one goes out, the other two have lost the foundation they needed. With this in mind, I knew I could not simply hit level 60 and achieve any goal I wanted. I would need tanks and DPS there with me. So while leveling, I made it my mission to save as many lives as I could around me. Not only did this mean putting my best foot forward while healing dungeons, but watching characters in the open world. If I saw someone reach half health while questing, I'd top them off. Not to mention constantly throwing out stamina buffs on probably hundreds of characters by now. When I'm feeling burnt out on combat or simply sitting around enchanting in Stormwind, my favorite pastime is to stand by the Flight Master and throw fortitude buffs on players as they're just about to fly out and continue their journey. I took this idea more seriously than I probably needed to. Before Hardcore launched, I leveled a Druid as Heart of the Wild Resto. This is a spec that can heal and tank, and that's what I did. I healed and tanked BRD, Strat, Skolo, and Blackrock Spire, simply to gain the knowledge of what mechanics were in those dungeons. Right up until the servers went live on Hardcore, I wasn't sure if I was going to heal or tank. I knew I'd do one of the two, and when my friend chose Warrior for his first character, I gladly and easily made my healing Priest. I'm glad I spent time relearning these dungeons as it gave me the confidence to make an attempt in Hardcore. I'd guess most players in Hardcore fear dying before they reach max level. I had that too, but I was more scared to not reach those dungeons which I had set my eyes on. To never have the opportunity to step up to the plate, that would be disheartening. I think that's why it was so outrageously fulfilling to complete Blackrock Depths while leveling. I went in at 55 or 56, can't totally remember. We did a run to the chest of the 7, mostly doing quests along the way. This was my first BRD run. I received my MC attunement and had a drop or two, but more important than anything else, I lived. And my entire party lived. The stress and tension I felt throughout the dungeon can only be dwarfed by the immense feeling of accomplishment I received when I hearthed safely out of Blackrock Mountain back to Stormwind. I was breathing deeply, nearly shaky once I stood up at the end, but it was worth it. This was when my WoW hardcore journey became a complete success. I thought Skolo, Strat, and Ubers would have to be done on my checklist to meet my original goal, but slotting just the first gem in my Infinity Gauntlet to have one of those endgame dungeons finally be conquered without ever dying was a feat I actually felt proud of. I wasn't sure if I'd make it there at all. When doing Ultimate pre-quests, I had a warrior DC who I was questing with, and he died as a result. This shocked me more than I was expecting from a video game. I had poorly affected the experience of another player. It completely went against my mission statement to reach max level, and to help as many people as I could along the way. In time, I reminded myself that I had healed probably 100 dungeons in hardcore by this point. I know I let someone die, though the blame rests on both of our shoulders. It was at this point I really felt the difference between fear and cowardice. See, fear is a good emotion. It keeps us safe by raising alarm bells when our intuition thinks something may go wrong. Playing hardcore without fear would be foolish. After my DC caused a death, I thought about retiring the priest, maybe retiring from hardcore altogether if my interconnection was bad. But it wasn't. The DC was random. It's not a common occurrence for me. My reservation to move forward in Azeroth wasn't out of fear. It was out of cowardice. This may be too cheesy or existential for a video game, but I felt if I retired the character there to prevent any other deaths, then my friend Flop would have lost his warrior in vain. I decided then to hit 60, for sure. Without any doubt, nothing would stop me. Shortly after this point, when I started leveling again, I was high enough to equip a staff called Soulkeeper. This is an OK BOE staff. It gives a large amount of spirit, so my priest can continue casting spells over a long period in a fight. But it was the name of the weapon that grabbed me. See, this is an MMORPG, and I created a bit of roleplay for myself. The model of Soulkeeper is a staff with a bright green glow at the top. To me, this glow was Flop. The staff, to me, was a Soulkeeper for my friend's spirit itself. It was like I was unable to stop moving forward. Every time I looked at my character, I felt the indomitable spirit of a warrior residing next to me, ready to charge in, unafraid of any mob. I've replaced Soulkeeper with better weapons, but I kept the staff and probably always will. I had 2 other DCs while leveling this character, so 3 total. My first was in Scarlet Monastery, right towards the end, in between some trash packs. It was scary, but nothing bad happened. And the last was the very instant that I pulled Andre Firebeard. This is a quest in Tanaris, and I surely would have died if I hadn't randomly invited a mage nearby to do the quest with me. While DC'd, I was sure my character had died, and was terribly sad thinking that my character had only made it to Tanaris, never reaching any of those endgame dungeons. Luckily, the mage must have killed every mob by himself. When I logged back in, he actually hit me back up, was glad that I lived, and then joined the party again to kill Andre with me present this time. After these 3 DCs, I started playing in the daytime and haven't had one since. With my confidence in my connection back and my desire not to indulge cowardice, I pushed forward on the priest. This video is supposed to be about my plans now that I'm 60, and I'm going to finally get to that. I mentioned how terrifying it was for me to heal BRD for the first time, but the second time I healed BRD, I found myself sitting back, propping a foot up on my chair and relaxing halfway through. This honestly surprised me. I stayed focused on health bars throughout the dungeon, but wasn't as nervous. Undoubtedly, this is because I had done it before. It's really that first run of a dungeon when you're scared. This is because of 2 reasons: gear check and knowledge check. There are many times in hardcore when you're at an advantage if you know what abilities the mobs will use or how they aggro. For instance, if a mob will heal, or if pulling a boss will engage the surrounding mobs. My character passed the gear check, this I was sure of. I talked in my previous video about how chasing gear drops from dungeons kept my character very powerful while adventuring through Azeroth. With the gear check solved, I knew I just had to press the healing buttons correctly, and I would keep my party alive. As for the knowledge check, I'm a WoW vet. I've been playing for 18 years now, and understand nearly every mechanic that is used. My small bit of fear was thinking that a mob might use a spell I wasn't used to or had forgotten about. That didn't happen though, and while a few mechanics surprised me here and there was nothing I wasn't expecting in terms of healing my party's damage. And now that I am max level on the priest, I'm going to continue with my original plan. I want to heal Stratholme, Skolo, and Blackrock Spire. I'm unsure if I'll raid it all. What it really comes down to is, can I trust the group? That's hard to answer confidently in raids, given the sheer amount of people. Once I outleveled my friends around the Scarlet Monastery range, I began pugging almost every night. I'd roll the dice on if a tank had much experience or if the DPS would be trying to grief for a laugh, and I'm pretty surprised with the amount of pugs I joined that my character actually hit max level. And while the groups I've had became better and better throughout the leveling process, I find myself again scared to pug. Not so much because my character could die. I've accepted that'll happen, and I'll probably move to Era with it. But because I could die in a pug, not with my friends. WoW has been a great game for a long time, and it's no secret that the game is immensely more fun playing with others. My guildies are still leveling, and I'd like to be there at max level with them to clear content together. So this feels like a great time to take a pause on the priest. I may still run a dungeon here or two to keep my skills fresh, but I'm going to try and fit in. But I'm not going to try and fit in each dungeon because there's no lockout system anymore. So there's no pressure of trying to get in your dungeon per day. Some of you may know what's coming next because it's pretty typical fashion for a WoW player that has reached max level. It's time for an ult. I started ults sometime around level 30 to 40 on my priest, but I didn't play them much. When their rest of the XP built up, I would take them out, quest, and then once the rest of the XP was used up, I'd retire them again. They stopped all around level 10, and it's taken me some time to choose what I really want to level next, but I bought some Twink BOE Blues and chanted them up, and have decided on the warrior. He is now mowing through mobs like they are absolutely nothing to him. I look forward to getting into dungeons and starting to level him up. I'm going to try and stream the leveling of the warrior, I think. Not a great streamer or YouTuber. Very green at all this, so please be patient. But so many times while leveling the priest, I wish I had been recording. From fishing up the One Ring and the Barons, to pulling 5 to 7 mobs in lower STV, to all the players I saved with a heal, random encounters. There's one time in Barrens, the Alliance quest mobs were patrolling down south, and I was standing next to a Horde character. I knew he was gonna die if he didn't move. I tried to slash warn him, but they just weren't getting the message. So some of those random freak occurrences would kind of be fun just to have video evidence of. I have absolutely enjoyed my time in hardcore so far. My priest hit 60 leveling my own way. I wasn't first. I didn't try to rush it. I prepared every step of the way to ensure success. And if that's the type of gameplay you want to see, then stay tuned for my level 60 warrior.